with our general Mangala, and then you learn at least one more you have to learn, which is very useful and very meaningful, and that is Shivodata Shivabhokta, which we recite also at meal times. It's on page 2 or 3? 2. Yes. What? Yes, only it was standing on my sari. Shivodata, Shivabhokta, Shiva sarvam idam jagat, tasmat chatata chintasu, nasavasta naya Shiva. Shivodata, Shivabhokta, Shiva sarvam idam jagat, tasmat chatata chintasu, nasavasta naya Shiva. Once more. Shivodata, Shivabhokta, Shiva sarvam idam jagat, tasmat chatata chintasu, nasavasta naya Shiva. There is no state and no condition which is not divine, which is not Shiva. Now, after this session, there will be, yes, she's already saying something. The Govardhan Puja, which belongs to the series of festivals connected with Diwali, the cows will be worshipped. So at the end of the session, we'll go to Govardhan Puja. Yes. The question was asked about initiation. It is not specifically with that last was connected with the recitation of the word Bhairava. If any of the practices contained in the Vijnana Bhairava is transmitted in an initiation by a master who is experienced, of course it is much more powerful. It's not only Bhairava or but any practice. It can be even a simple practice. If it is transmitted in initiation, it's more powerful. But at the same time, this text is also open to any sadhaka, any yogi to select what corresponds to your spiritual need, etc. So it is not a condition. In certain tantras and certain mantras, the initiation is a condition. You are not supposed to do it without initiation, but not here. And that makes the universality of this text. Of course, the level of experience depends on so many factors, depends on your own involvement, on your own dedication to the practice, and on so many other factors. And if you have a guru, that the guru gives you a particular practice. But as Swami Lakshman used to say, you start from anywhere, you just start. Don't wait for the great master to appear from the Himalayas and to give you, but just practice and start. Whether from a very simple practice or from a very high practice, which I have taken the courage to advise that one can really take a very high level practice. And by the process of bhavana, you will rise to that level. Now, if we always put our level too low, we say, no, I'm not able to do this, let me just start. You will not rise. So, taking a high level, but like what I said, meditating on the whole universe and your own body as being filled with consciousness, it is a very high level contemplation, but you can do it. And eventually that Shuddha Vikalpa or that bhavana will lead you to the experience. Now we leave the 130 related to the name Bhairava, the word Bhairava, which in so many texts you find so many analyses. There is one book by a professor of Cambridge, Evin Kars, on the Indian, the Nirvachana tradition. What's the exact title? Yes. He has, and it's a thick book, big size, 60 pages only on the name Bhairava. Different analysis of the name Bhairava, and from different sources, from the Tantras, from Abhinavagupta, from this and that. It's fantastic. 60 pages, highly scholarly, but with all these great texts, and so it's not just this little verse here which tells you it's a wonderful name to take, but it has a very vast background. If anybody is interested, I can give the details. If you remember the title. The Indian semantic tradition. The Indian semantic tradition. But he gives us an example as the main example, just the word Bhairava. So then you see how important is that the typical Indian approach through linguistic analysis, etc., to understand that divine nature, which in this tradition is called Bhairava. Now, we recite, yes?
How do you spell Cass, with a C or a K? Cass, with a C or a K? Evan?
K-A-H-R-S. Patricia? We recite 131, we have already recited, but it doesn't matter. We do it again because we are starting from there. Should we do the complete up to 138? Yeah. So a few of you have suggested or requested that we should record the recitation of all the whole text. So we will still try to do it, and if it's not for a professional, but just for getting into that mood and listening. So we'll try to do it before it is too late. Aham amitam ityadi pratipatti prasangata niradhari manoyati tatyana priranachami nityo vibhu niradharo vyapakascha kiladhipa shattan pratikshanam dhyayan kritato tanurupata atatvam indrajalapam idam sarvam avastitam kim tattvam indrajalasya iti datyachamam brajit atmano nirvikarasya kvajnanam kvakchakvakriya jnanayata bhirbhava atashunyam idam jagat nami bhatto namoksho me jivasyaita vibhishika pratibhimbam idam buddhir jali sviva vivasvata indriyadvarakam sarvam sukha dukkhadi sangamam itindriyani santyajya svasta svatmani vartate jnana prakashakam loke atma chaiva prakashaka anayora pritak bhavat jnani jnani vibhavyate manasam cetana shaktir atma cheti chatushtayam yada pri parikshinam tada tat bhairavam vapu. While making assertions like, I am, this is mine, etc., the mind goes to that which is supportless. Inspired by this meditation, one becomes peaceful. The whole process is one of transforming the individual ego, that ego which is our very ordinary common self-understanding, into the universal I, into that fullness of I consciousness. How does it happen? A few of these last verses, and we are nearing the end, are directly dealing with this question of how the limited individual I is transformed or into the universal I. So here, this is the normal, ordinary aham. I am this body, I am this very limited I consciousness, or ahamta, mamatva, we have all these concepts also. Myness, that possessiveness which depends on our individual ego. But even if you utter such words like I, mine, this is mine, and this is and so on. In that context also, if the mind becomes supportless, not only if, it's not if, actually it is yati. Here I'm sorry, I disagree a bit with my master, because it does not say you should. It just says yati, the mind goes to that which is supportless. How? You think that you know who you are. You think that if you say I, you think it's very clear what. So the ordinary people, they don't even question. But if you go into the depths of who is that I, and who says mine, how can I say mine? What is the basis of my ego and of my sense of possessiveness? What is that basis? And if you go deeper and deeper, we had one dharana before where I also quoted Ramana Maharshi's method of Atma Vichara. That is, I think, the most clear indication how this is to be understood. So if you go deeper into the question, who am I? And I have quoted the Upanishad and the soul after death, etc. Who are you? Who am I? Who is this I? Then you finally land into something which is supportless. Now here we have a few psychologists sitting here. We know very well if you do this with people who are very unstable, who don't have a strong self-consciousness, they get into a depression and they lose their whole bearing. But here we are already at the high level of a yogi who has already trained his consciousness and is at an advanced state of realization. So it is not to deprive people of their self-consciousness and making them insecure, etc. But on the contrary, to leading them through that ego which they utter very simply, I am doing this, I am doing that, and this. Which is this I? Leading them to that supportlessness, but there's nothing behind. What is that? And this is a meditation, that dhyana. Meditating in this way means like Atma Vichara, questioning, who am I? Who is making this assertion that this is mine, this is... So it is a meditation, tatyana. By that one becomes peaceful. Because one is liberated from that very limited sense of the ego. And there will be another dharana at the very end of the text. So questioning your ego and your sense of possessiveness, where does it come from? Is there any basis for that? Actually, when Ramana Maharshi asks this question, who am I? He puts it as a method. And then so many of his disciples, they ask for clarification because it's not easy. It is not easy. But if you land in that supportlessness, and that supportlessness which we have been trained in already in so many dharanas, then you reach a state of peacefulness, because it's not that you lose your bearings or you lose yourself, but you lose that wrong sense of that limited ego. And you land, and we know Niradhara is a qualification of the divine. And this comes exactly in the next verse. Supportlessness is not something which brings you in a state of fear that where am I landing? But you are landing in nothing but the divine. Nothing else. Because Niradhara is the Lord, the divine is without any support, without any... Yeah, it's also not so easy to translate, but we have come to an agreement to translate certain terms in certain ways, which no translation is satisfactory. Now, 132 is again one of the few verses on the divine. Nityo, and this, some people in my tradition, they practice this as a kind of mantra. The first line. Nityo vibhur niradharo vyapakascha akilatipa. Shabdan pratikshanam dhyayan. Pratikshanam, you're asking how much time it is practiced. Every moment. Stephen, how much time it is practiced? Every moment. It says here. Every moment. Eternal, omnipresent, without any support, all-pervading, Lord of all that is. By meditating every moment on these words, one attains fulfillment in accordance with their meaning. That's very... Kritartho artha anurupata. So the meaning gets fulfilled, that is eternity, omnipresence, supportlessness, all-pervasiveness, and lordship. So by repeating these words like a mantra, I say like, it's not a mantra, but it's a meditation. Dhyayan, it is a meditation. Then you attain the meaning. You see, word and meaning, many of you may be knowing Kalidasa's opening of the Kumara Sambhava, where he says that word and meaning are so closely united like Shiva and Parvati. Parvati Parameshwara. Vagartau, Ivasampriktau, Parvati Parameshwara. Word and meaning are closely united like Shiva and Parvati. So if the word has its full power, then it gives you the meaning. See, we are so much divorced because we are so much spoiled, with all this information technology and the too many words and too many. So we have lost the sense of the power of the word. But this word and meaning being united, like Shiva and Parvati, inseparable. And that power of the word. Vagautau iva sampriktau Parvati Parameshwarau. Yes. So then the words, and again, it's a question of the level of consciousness. See, you can take any text from the Vijnana Bhairava out of context and it makes nonsense. But if you take it in the context and at the level of consciousness which the yogi has already attained, then it is full of meaning. And that you know very well, those of you who have a guru or who have known some great spiritual people, that when a great yogi says something, utters something, it has such a weight and such a power, and it realizes that which is at the end of the text. He will say, the yogi who has reached that state, his words become powerful. So this Kritartha Artha Anurupata, they attain their meaning. It's all a part of the process of divinization, of attaining the same characteristics, the same nature as the divine. And we had here and there from 109, 27, that divinization, transformation into the divine nature. This is the goal of the whole practice. I'm meditating every moment on these words. It doesn't mean any mantra kind of japa, but just on the meaning that the Lord, He is eternal, He is all-pervasive, and so on and so on. It becomes a nature of meditating on the divine. Now the next 133, it is again, we had already one about the world being like a magic show and like a picture, and so unreal. As I said, not in the Vedantic sense that everything is Maya, but just in the sense of the relativity of the world, the unsubstantiality of the world, and atattva is unsubstantial, without ultimate reality, like a magic show. And then I mentioned also the whole concept of Jagannatya. The world is like a drama performed by the divine actor and magician, also the divine magician. So why this verse comes here, I have no explanation. But these are always a part of the whole stress on Niradhara, on supportlessness, so on not taking the world too seriously. Now 134. Yes. Atmano nirvikarasya prajnanam gacchava kriya. How can the immutable self have any knowledge or activity? All external objects depend on our knowledge of them. Therefore, this world is void. Again, from 33 and 34, this insubstantiality of the world, shunyamidam jagat. Not completely in the Buddhist sense, but still one aspect definitely meets the Buddhist idea of the emptiness of the world. But how is that argument nirvikara? The self is without change. How can it have any knowledge and any activity? Yeah, actually these two verses are taken together because they refer to the same atattva, the world being without substance, and being a form of the void. Now, how is that argument that the self is without any change, nirvikara? I must confess I'm now not very sure about this interpretation, and I can have a look at the commentary. 134. Yeah, he says by Atman here, he means the enlightened self, Bodha Atmanasya, which is the self of consciousness, Chit Atmana. It has no parts, it is partless, nirvibhaga, tvena. Because it is partless, it has no change, and therefore it cannot possess either knowledge or activity. Because knowledge and activity are aspects of change, vikara, forms of change. And since there is no support, therefore everything is to be meditated upon as empty. Atas sarvam idam shunyam eva jayet. So it is again leading to that meditation on emptiness. But I cannot tell you much more about interpretation of this verse. Maybe one has to go deeper in it. Now the next one is very important, because what all our religions do, they first teach you that you're a bound soul, you're in samsara, you're full of sin, you're full of limitation, and you have to liberate yourself from this samsara and from this sinful and this limited state and so on. So they put you in the beginning, they put you in a state of total duality. And from there, then you have to make a lot of effort, and you have to purify yourself, and you have to do so many rituals and so many purifications and all that. But at the moment when you have already overcome any sense of duality, this whole duality of bondage and liberation also drops away. Na me bandhu na moksho me jivasyeta dvibhishika. There is neither bondage nor liberation for me. They are just like bogies for the fearful. Now that is what the religions do. They make you scared. they will go to hell. And hell is not only in Christianity. If you look at Buddhism, also the hells are very tremendous. So these are bogies for the fearful. No, for the fearful there are two words, jivasya or pit. There are two versions, but it means practically the same. They are to scare the people, scare the souls, that you will land in hell if blessings, they are powerful. So why curse is mentioned here? Well, we know, also we have talked about the rishis becoming, getting into a state of anger and so on. And even the Old Testament prophets, they have cursed the kings so well. So curse is also part of the power of a yogi, depending on the situation, of course. But, and definitely what is most important, he can bestow grace, anugraha karaka. He can bless, and his blessing will be powerful. And this is what we know from the great saints and great yogis, that their blessing is powerful. Anugraha karaka. And Anugraha Karaka is an attribute of Shiva. He is the one who bestows grace. And out of the 5 acts, Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Vilaya and Anugraha, it is the last act that he bestows grace. And the whole purpose of this whole process of these 5 acts is to bestow grace, means to bestow liberation. Anugraha Karaka. So the yogi becomes Bhairava, becomes Shiva, and he has the same power of bestowing grace. He becomes an instrument of grace for the others. And his words are powerful. So I said in the beginning, but this is now just, tomorrow we will come back to that. Although the text says explicitly only one dharana is sufficient to become divine. But still, and one dharana under the condition that you are fully devoted to that. Ananya Cheta, as he says, that your mind is not drifting here and there, it is completely concentrated on that one practice. And it may be a simple practice, but with full concentration. Then you achieve the same goal. And yet, practice shows, experience shows that you need more than one. You need more than one because they belong to different areas, from the breath and the energy and the emptying the mind in different mind, body, universe, inside, outside. So if you practice one from each group, that would be my recommendation. One from each group, then it becomes complete. Practicing one, it requires a lot of concentration, a lot of one-pointedness. It is easier to practice more than one. But still the promise is there, and to attain that divine nature by these practices. Yes. Here's a good question.
One of each group in the same time?
I cannot hear so well, either with a mic or...
Hello.
Yes.
The practice, it's one dharana of each group in the same meditation, or one in one meditation for 1 month, and after another for 1 month. Or we can do whatever we feel.
Well, see, it's my recommendation, this one dharana of each group. See, a lot depends on the individual state of where you are and what you have already achieved, and then you select that which is absolutely fitting for that state, and then it will carry you very far. So that's what I quoted in the beginning, Abhinavagupta, when he says, you take that which is near, what you feel which is near to you, near to your state, to your experience. And but then, of course, you need also advice. I mean, even if it's not a great guru, but one needs, in practicing, you need advice from experienced people who have practiced with these or with similar practices. But anyhow, you have to talk. Yes.
One is in a state of Shiva. One is really one is really a jhana. Why he should use powerful words to be against someone? If he's understanding that there is no bad and no good, why he should use his words against someone? You talk in one of the curse, yes, I mean the curse. I don't know the words, I forgot it again. Why he should use that?
Why
Should I tell in German?
Ask the question. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. You already asked it in English, so ask it in German.
Wenn jemand so kraftvoll ist und wenn jemand dieses Bewusstsein wirklich erlangt hat, wieso sollte er dann jemanden verfluchen? Also, dass er jemanden segnet, das kann ich verstehen, aber warum sollte er jemanden verfluchen, wenn er doch weiß, dass das alles keinen Bestand hat und dass alles, was da ist, eigentlich ein Bestandteil von ihm ist? Wie kann er das dann verfluchen?
Yeah, it doesn't help the others if you say it in German.
You can repeat the question in English.
No, everything is a question at what level you understand it. What level of consciousness? As I told you, any verse can be misunderstood. If you tell somebody who is totally inexperienced, it can be completely misunderstood. I had in the very first teaching I gave of this text in Himachal Pradesh, and there was one boy, and he interpreted this yatra yatra manoyati, wherever the mind goes, let it find the satisfaction there. He said, oh, wonderful, I can, and he gave such a, terrible interpretation, and I said, you have understood nothing of the whole text. So, and this is the beauty of Indian spirituality, I would say, is that it is always adapted to the level of consciousness of the practitioner. It is not a leveled one, you say everybody has to do the same. It has to be understood at that level where it stands in the text and where it stands in the progress of the yogi and the level of consciousness of the yogi. So anything can be misinterpreted and anything can be misunderstood, but you have to see it in that context. And then once we have developed our consciousness to that level where we have reached, overcoming dualities and so on. Then it makes sense, but not before. Before, you have to train your mind, you have to purify yourself, you have to focus on something, you have to concentrate, etc., etc. But at the final overcoming of dualities, then it all falls away. It all falls away. But maybe I should reply. Yes.
Maybe I misunderstood you, but I think she was asking why would Bhairava, why would Shiva, or a yogi who has attained Bhairava, ever curse anyone, when obviously that being must be in complete shanta, complete peace. Why would they, is that what you were asking? Why would they curse anyone? Why would a Shiva curse anyone?
Yes, cursing, this is, I cannot say the whole history of religions and in Hinduism also. Curse is used by the yogi or by the rishi in a particular situation, or the prophets of the Old Testament. See, when the king or when there's some very terrible things are happening, and by their curse they stop it.
They're not generous.
And the rishis and yes. In certain situations with certain people or certain curse may be necessary. You can read the whole, whether it's the Vedas or Puranas, you find many examples where the rishi has to curse some negative forces and see what the gods they do. They're fighting against the demons. So this is a part of the process. But we are all hoping for blessings.